Thanks for being on, Ben. We have lots of fun stuff to chat about. I think maybe we could just dive into the biggest thing, which is the Patreon tier changes.
Okay, do you want to really go behind the scenes here, Haley?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, this is the place for going behind the scenes. The idea was, we had an idea. What if we got together some heroes from Earth? No, the idea was we are, and I'm always scared, obviously, the Patreon numbers are going to drop in a big way. I'm just waiting for this lightning bolt to hit us. But something I've had in mind for about a month is our Patreon numbers it feels inflated because of Russian oligarchs. No, because of the deepest dive on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, where so many people jumped in to support that deepest dive. It's been amazing and humbling and awesome, and hopefully they enjoyed the ride. It was super fun to produce on this end. But it's that question of we're riding higher than we normally are on Patreon numbers wise because of so many people jumping in for Rebirth. And we've been talking for a while about setting a new Patreon goal. And so I was in the camp of like, well, we don't have a good read. Like if we set the goal for this, I think we're going to drop off a huge amount at the end of this month. And so we should wait for that to happen before we set the goals so we can be realistic about where to set the goal for the number of new supporters. But then thinking about it more and tossing and turning at night, thinking about, well, I guess the smarter angle is to make this window before the end of the month really exciting for MinnMax on Patreon and to set the new goal now because it's going to be hopefully easier to retain those new supporters than to lose them and then gain new ones. That's, I feel like somebody should have raised their hand 3 weeks ago in a Monday meeting and said, why is your strategy to lose supporters? That's a bad idea.
Yeah, true. One of us should have clocked that, but we all were like, yeah.
Okay, where should we start? Haley, we got a lot. Should we just go for tier changes, the more mechanical, boring stuff?
Bottom to top and end with the new Patreon goal, because that's IMO, very spunky and fun. Okay. Big finale.
Well, tell you what, you're right, but I'm going to start with some candy, the fun candy as well, which is we have new banner art for MinnMax, thanks to Hugo.
Hugo's in the chat on Twitch right now, too. Hi, Hugo.
Oh, hey, Hugo. We're talking about your art, man. So we, in the past, Hugo in the community has made, by the way, at HugoP.arts on Instagram. Give him a follow there. It's fun to see his process there. What if we turned us all into thematically appropriate video game characters? And Hugo was a great sport and as wonderful as always to work with. And it was super fun to get like ideas and let everybody pick what character they want to represent them.
I like how it makes sense too, because it's static, right? It's like the cohort, so you don't have to worry about updating it.
Right. Unless we're dropping people left and right and gaining people left and right, which could happen. We would adapt it in the future. I don't know of anything happening on that front, but it's not impossible.
That would probably be less frequent than a deepest dive ever, It's already X amount behind for that, so that this makes a lot more sense. Plus, it's more fun. It's like, that's the cohorts. This is the channel.
That's us.
Yeah.
That's it. But Patreon tier changes. I live for this stuff. I think it's so fun to see how everybody changes all this stuff. And if you're listening to this, there is a public link on our Patreon page, patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. If you want to check out a more detailed breakdown of what this means and why and all this stuff, it's a public post. So even if you're not a Patreon supporter, you can go check it out. But we've been hemming and hawing. I've been hemming and hawing and tossing and turning for a while, thinking about the Game Champion tier and the Wall of Heroes tier, and should we shake that up to make it a better deal for the community? Everybody who's jumped up to that $100 Wall of Heroes tier and put any image they want on every MinnMax video throughout the month, God bless you. I think it's wonderful, and I feel like my voice is going from me screaming every month like that. This seems like the greatest advertising deal you could ever ask for. It's $100 to jump in and put an image up that's literally seen millions and millions and millions of times throughout 1 month. And so you can put anything on there. You can put a picture of your pet. You can put your small business on there. Promote your Instagram. Promote your podcast, your channel.
Ones, those are fun.
Yeah. Yep. Like I love, there's just something that bubbled up in the community months and months ago about putting a bunch of just stupid pictures of Jeffem on the Wall of Heroes. And I love that.
The debate with pandas, there was a bunch of normal pandas
right,
or red
the panda
pandas.
month. I think that's so fun. And so I want to encourage more of that. And so the question was, how do we get that? How do we get more variety instead of rotating through the same, 11 or so images every month? And so the solution we came to is, what if we drop the Wall of Heroes tier? And believe it or not, there were a lot of behind the scenes discussions about different options for what we can do here. But the idea is, what if we drop the Wall of Heroes tier from $100 to $50? Where now I'm going to be screaming even louder, like $50 to have any image you want seen by millions of people as it rotates throughout the month. It seems like such a slam dunk for me.
Criminally undervalued.
I would think so, but I hope $50 is a more reasonable tier if people in the community want to put some more inside joke stuff on there. Jump up for 1 month, jump back down, whatever works for you. And in addition to that, if you jump up to the Wall of Heroes tier before the end of the month, before May here, and you lock in an image for all of May, we'll DM you on Patreon and give you an Xbox code or a Steam code. We have a ton of game codes to give away. So I will message you as if you won Trivia Tower if you jump up to that Wall of Heroes tier, which is now at the $50 tier. Caesar Black Wolf asks, can I advertise playing games with me at the Wall of Heroes tier? Can I advertise playing games with, I guess so. I don't know what that means, but I think so.
Like your PlayStation name or something, and be like, play Destiny with me. Here's my gamer tag. Like that kind of energy. Sure.
That would be awesome. Yeah. I would love that, and like, I'm surprised too that folks don't promote their Instagram account on there. I think that's a good opportunity.
Yeah.
Whatever you want.
There's indie devs who put their game on there too.
Yeah, it's like no harm done. That seems great for us. That's great. Luck Be a Landlord has been on there for quite a while. Mm-hmm. Just jump up there for the month your game launches or whatever. If you're a small developer, that's wonderful. But the big thing then is new Patreon goal. Now, Patreon got rid of goals technically. So it's not baked into the Patreon ecosystem anymore. But what that means is we just have to track it on our own, and it's not that big of a deal. So what this is MinnMax plays Dungeons and Dragons. We have had a fair number of people jump in and request that at some point we play D&D. Sarah plays a lot of D&D in her life. I've played a little. I think Leo's gotten more in a little. Yeah, more than me, but in that arena. And so then also a factor with this is Charles Hart, who has been helping out with some video editing and stuff, who's also part-time at Game Informer. He is very, very into D&D and really loves being a DM. I think you talked to him a little bit about it, didn't you, Haley?
Yeah, he'd be such a good DM. I could just tell by his vibe that he'd be very spunky and creative about it. Yeah, and so the idea is if we hit a goal on Patreon, then we would fly Charles Hart out to Minneapolis, where he'd get to meet his Game Informer colleagues who he's never met before, which is bizarre. Oh, that's nice.
And then get to meet us in person. I guess he'll be at Summer Game Fest, so some of us will have met him. But he's then going to run a DM session, and it'll be at a table, probably not the MinnMax studio, for reasons we can get into maybe on this episode of the MinnMax Show podcast. Might be a nice place to talk about that. But we'll try and rent out a space. It'd be cool if we could rent out some place that looks like a cool D&D
like a
tavern. Yep.
Barrels and such.
Oh, so many barrels, so many torches. Yeah. And so it'll be Sarah and Leo and myself, even though I'm really worried about, I don't think I can hang with Sarah and Leo with D&D. They're going to be so much funnier than I am and like more engaged.
Don't discredit yourself. You'd have fun.
I feel like I'm going to ruin it. I feel like I might throw out. But the plan is D&D session there if we hit this goal. And then maybe some other friends of the show and stuff jumping in because we're going to have that in Minneapolis here for the D&D session. So the idea with that is there's a couple options where typically we like making it so that if we hit a new total number of supporters, of paid supporters on Patreon, that'll trigger the goal. So the goal is 4,600 total paid supporters on Patreon. We will do that D&D one-shot adventure in that stream. However, I understand that it's like, well, people that are the most committed to D&D finally happening, they're probably already supporters. And so, yeah, if they told a friend about MinnMax, that would be great. But that's a tall order. So we also have the option of if we hit $24,000 for the monthly total on Patreon, then that'll also trigger the Dungeons and Dragons one-off. So either 4,600 total paid or 24,000 in 1 month. So there's a couple options, couple paths to victory here for how we can trigger that Dungeons and Dragons one-off thing happening. And typically, I always feel weird about the money goal if there's not a financial reason for it. But the fact that like, okay, well, that'll cover Charles's flight out here and stuff like that. That's nice to kind of make it a clean slate there. So in a perfect world, if you want to, if you've enjoyed MinnMax's content recently, you could jump up to that Wall of Heroes tier on Patreon, $50, find an image, lock it in throughout the entire month of May. We'll send you a Steam code or an Xbox code if you jump up to that tier before the end of the month. And then at that same time, that gets us very close to the Dungeons and Dragons session happening. And that is the update, Haley. Did we miss anything?
No, I think that was it.
Okay, it's a lot of little details to go through, but that's the basic idea for where we're at. And again, I'm a geek for this stuff. Hopefully you're a geek for this stuff as well. We're always just trying to find ways to keep MinnMax dynamic and sustainable. And so that's all possible by folks going to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Find a tier that's right for you, as long as it's sustainable. Again, jump up to the $50 tier, jump back down wherever you want to, whatever works for you. This was just a clip from our Patreon exclusive podcast called Bonus Pod. If you support MinnMax on Patreon at the $5 tier, you unlock Bonus Pod each and every week. Haley McLean is joined by cohorts to talk about whatever they want. It's kind of the sister show, the companion show to the MinnMax Show podcast. So there's even more content in here. Also, we take calls from members of the community, and we can really dive into the weeds on stuff. So if you want to more than double the amount of podcasts from MinnMax every week, support MinnMax on Patreon at the $5 tier. Thanks so much.